Okay then, well, welcome to this video. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dippin. I'm the Head of Professional Services here at Pharma Plus. And today we're going to be talking about inspection standards. Today is actually the 8th of October 2013. And we've got a lot of things going to happen in the next month or so. So basically we're going to be having prototype inspections occurring, and it's going to include a lot of other things that we as pharmacists and owners are not particularly aware of, or may not have happened in the past to any significant detail or depth. And the idea of today is really to go over one particular area of this, which is the premises inspection standards. Now, as you'll see from this, there are a lot of things here that have still got to be worked out. So we have used the best of what we know and the best of our resources to come up with this type of presentation that should hopefully help you to get a bit of a better understanding as to what the GPHC require, and some of the things that you should really expect over the next few months to happen. Now, in terms of inspection standards, there is a document that you can find here on pharmacyregulation.org/standards. Let me just click on that, and hopefully it should come up. There we are. It's taking a bit of time. Here we are. Okay, so you got standards, and the if you really want to read this, which I would probably suggest you do, you can click on this one here, the standards for registered pharmacies, and it will show a document that I would strongly recommend that you have a quick flick through. Hopefully it will come up now. There we go, that's the document you want to see. This was first written in September 2012. There have been a few little additions that I put onto this presentation so that you'll get an idea of some of the things that have happened recently, and also from our experience some of the things that that we sort of like spoken to other people about, and we put it all on here. So anyway, so that's really where you can find the main document for this particular video. Now, let's just open this up. Now, the whole idea behind creating these premises standards, let me just do this, let me just close this for a minute. There's two things. This is what the GPH says anyway. The first thing is to create an environment for safe and effective practice of pharmacy, and it applies to all GPHC registered pharmacies. One of the things they do make a special reference to is something called competing demands. Now, as pharmacies, there's a dual element of the business. There is obviously the pharmacy and medicine supply service, but you've also got quite a big retail arm as well, or I hope you do anyway. So really, it's trying to get a balance between the retail arm as well as the professional arm, and I'm sure in many circumstances you've probably heard situations where that balance hasn't necessarily been maintained. So really, it's trying to get a little bit of a little bit more information, a little bit more standardization of how these sort of services should be conducted in a reasonable premises. Now, let me just close these. The responsibilities. Now, it makes a number of references to who is actually responsible for this, and there's two particular people. First of all, there are the owners of the pharmacy itself, and there is also the superintendent as well. Now, most of the time there'll be one and the other, I should say. In other words, there'll be the same person. A lot of the time there'll be two different people, so you will need to work with the superintendent if you've got a different one on these particular standards. Now, it also requires that you need to maintain all legal standards, and it's also the responsibility of locums and employee pharmacists to understand these as well. So if you have employee pharmacists, if you have locum pharmacists, make sure that they either listen to this or read the document, because they will also be responsible in a small sense, I would suppose, not in the sense that as owners you will be, but in a small sense of these sorts of responsibilities as well. Okay, let's close this down now. Now, I've read the document, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but it isn't the easiest read, shall we say. And these are my first comments on this. It's the scientific term, I would say, is very wishy-washy. So in other words, it's not really committing to particular you shall do this and you shall do that. It's open. It's very open-ended. That could be good, and it could also be bad. It could be good in the sense that it gives you a lot of freedom to do what you need to do, but it could be very bad as because what you may interpret something as being okay, it may be misinterpreted, or it may be interpreted in a completely different way when the inspection actually occurs. So it's something that you just need to bear in mind, and I'm not going to go through every single principle or standard with you, but I'll probably suggest you read through the document yourself. But as you'll see, it's very, very open-ended, and hence my second comment is it's open to significant interpretation. But the thing is what we have. So in other words, there's going to be very little more on this than that. We're going to have to work with what we've been given. And as I said earlier on, my main concern really is how do you ensure consistency of approach. In other words, that you as a pharmacy are not unnecessarily penalised when another pharmacist or another inspector may have the same issue somewhere else and they're let off with it. So it's something that I think needs to be explored, but unfortunately, as I said, there's not much more we can do about that at the moment. Okay, so that's my initial comments on it. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these with you because it's quite a lot, really. It's based on 5 specific principles. All right. Principle 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and each one of these has got various standards in it as well, which we'll come on to here as well. There you go. So, and that's the reason why I'm not going to go over each one with you, because in all honesty, it's not going to really help you. You can easily look through this in the document, and if anything, it's going to lengthen this video by too much. But anyway, so let's quickly go over each principle. And as I said, there's a lot of different standards after that I would suggest you read up on. But the first principle is governance arrangements to ensure that you safeguard health, the safety and well-being of patients and the public. So So that's the first one. Okay. The second one, staff are empowered and competent to blah 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 safeguard health, safety and well-being of patients and the public. So the first one is really to ensure that the processes are in place. The second one is to ensure that your staff are empowered and competent to ensure this. So that includes things like training, it includes things like making sure that you've got adequate human resource issues in place. So if you find that somebody's not working or not up to scratch, that you can actually resolve that in the most serious case, perhaps even get rid of the member of staff if they're not performing up to the level that you need them to. Third thing, environmental condition and condition of the premises are suitable for the safeguarding of health, safety and well-being of patients and the public. So you've got processes, staff, environment. So that would mean things like the standard of the premises, for example. It would mean to ensure that you got that your premises isn't necessarily falling apart, that your consultation room, for example, meets the appropriate standards, those sorts of things. In actual fact, let me open this one up. Sorry, it might be useful for me to do this. So if we look at premises in particular, these are the sorts of things that they will tend to ask or tend to look at: is that it's safe, it's clean, it's maintained, it provides a hygienic environment, it's secure. In other words, you've got a reasonable system in place to prevent unauthorized access. Okay, so let's go on to principle number 4, which is this one. and the way in which pharmacy services are delivered. And you've got the same thing again. So are delivered to reasonable standards, they're safeguarded, and actually maintain health and safety and the well-being of patients and the public. And the fifth one, the equipment and the facilities are used, so you can read the rest of it yourself. So it gives you an idea, a very brief and a very overarching idea as to how to as the sort of things that they'll be looking at. Now let's go on to principle number 3 again, just to quickly clarify something. As you can see, there isn't really much in it. It's not you're not saying, for example, that you have to have a separate area in the pharmacy, for example, that maintains confidentiality. What it's basically saying is that it's giving you a very open-ended type of arrangement whereby you can alter your premises into a certain way to maintain confidentiality, as a particular example, and that would be up to you. So as I said, it does open up a number of different questions. Now let's close all these. There we are. So those are the principles, and as you can see, the main focus is on the public and the patients. Now all of these must, and I put this in red simply because I think it's very important that you know this, all of these must be met by the owner and the superintendent, and they're all equally important. So in other words, it doesn't mean to say that we'll award, I don't know, 5 marks for principle 5 while we'll concentrate our main efforts on principle 1, which could be awarded 20 marks. No, they're all the same. They're all 20% each. So again, if you fail on one, you're going to probably fail on all of them. Okay. Now let's go on to how will evidence be collected. Now I think it's November the 4th, 2013. The GPHC will start commencing something called prototype inspections, and these are sorts of things that they'll be looking at. In actual fact, it's a lot more in depth than it's ever been in the past, so there's going to be a bit of a culture shock, I think, but this is just to prepare you for some of the things that they may ask. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, it's up to the owners and the superintendents to ensure that they meet all the standards, and they will, and you as owners and superintendents will have to make a declaration to say that you meet these standards. And I presume this is when I'm not quite sure, but I presume this is when your premises is due for renewal. The license is up for renewal. Now, in previous type of inspections, you tend to get generally tend to get quite a limited type of inspection, but they're going to go into much more depth now. So they'll be looking at written evidence. Okay, so in other words, they'll be looking to make sure that you are recording those near misses, or that you are recording those patient incidents, as an example. They may spend a bit of their time actually observing what the staff are actually doing. So, for example, are they informing you, for example, when they are selling that box of paracetamol, or are they giving the right advice when they give it out? They may pose scenarios to the staff. So, for example, they may say, just something off the top of my head, say, for example, you have a spillage in the pharmacy. What would you do in that instance? Where is your spillage kit? How would you handle that? They may test your systems. Now, I'm not too sure quite what I mean by testing the systems, but they may, for example, decide that actually, to be honest with you, I've got no idea what it means by that. So that's something I think we need to look into a little bit more. But they've got the option of, for example, making sure that your system actually works. Something that's written down on paper actually works in practice. So they may, for example, I suppose, decide to test one of your SOPs to make sure your CD protocols or something like that. And I put this in red as well. It's not just about your SOPs now. So they're going to be looking into the implementation of your SOPs as opposed to just what you've got written down on paper. So as you can probably see, it's a lot more in depth than it was before, and they're obviously going at this in a very what's the word I'm looking at? In a very intense way. Okay, so let's go on to the last bit, the power enforcement and inspections. Now, initially, it was going to start in October 2013. They sort of now raised the date of the 4th of November. That's when the inspections, new type of inspections, will start. Now, these are protocol inspections. In other words, they're testing the protocol. They're not actually saying that that this is the be-all and find-all. So the idea is that they'll test certain pharmacies using a particular format, and then they will look at the results of that and then make an assessment as to what to do next. And that's going to start from the 4th of November 2013. Now, statutory notices will not be issued during this time, but obviously they will be issued once those inspections have been finalised. In other words, once the process itself has been finished. Now, the date when the prototype inspections will end has not yet been set. So in other words, they're leaving this quite open-ended. It could be a year from now, it could be 6 months from now. I couldn't tell you because it hasn't been released. So the whole idea at the moment is that they're testing their inspections and making sure that it's rigorous. They're making sure that they can that it's probably fair, I suppose, as well. And during that time, they won't be issuing statutory notices. They'll probably give you advice as to where to go, but they probably won't be saying you must do this, otherwise we will shut you down. They won't do that. Now, the other thing is that they will eventually issue public reports on this. Now, this could be something that could make and break your pharmacy, and it's something that I'll dwell on for a few minutes, really. The actual inspections, the actual premises will be rated, and your services as well will be rated under a 4-point scale, which is a poor, satisfactory, good, and excellent. Now, that may change in the future. I couldn't tell you. Obviously, you don't want to be rated poor, okay, because it could have a huge impact upon your pharmacy and your reputation as well. You really want to get to this level, good or excellent. If you think about it, if you were a patient and you realise that your services that you were getting from your pharmacy is from a poor pharmacy, you probably won't want to go there. You'll probably go down the pharmacy road, which has either got a satisfactory or a good one. You know, so it's something that you could lose out on, and it's something that I think you need to look at if you suspect that you may be going down that road. Again, we're here to help you if you need to. You know, we've got people here that can visit your pharmacy if need be, and help you out with certain issues that could potentially crop up, and a fresh pair of eyes can certainly help. So that really is about it. So I'm not going to dwell upon this for too long now. Hopefully it's given you a sense as to the huge changes that are occurring in this field, and I'm hoping that you took away the fact that you need to look at your premises differently, and also not just the premises, but look into other bits of your process. So in other words, are your staff up to date? Are your environmental controls up to date? Are they able to provide the right sort of medicines advice to patients over the counter? Are your locums and your other employees up to scratch with your processes, and similar sorts of things to that? But as I said earlier, I'm not going to dwell upon all the standards and principles. If you want to read up on more, you know where you can get it from. It's here. It's all in the document. And I hope that you'll take some time to read through that. Okay, now I'm going to sign off now. Thank you very much for listening. If you do need us, our number is 020-8863-3335. If you need to get in contact with me specifically, my name is Diffin and the email address is diffin@pharmaplusltd.co.uk. Alright, so good luck and hope to speak to you soon. I hope you found this interesting. Thank you very much now. Bye bye.